The orbital bazaar above Tau Ceti Prime was a noisy place. Lights from 1,000 stalls made the metal walls shine like a floating city of mirrors. Traders from every corner of the galaxy shouted, bargained, and waved small glowing signs in the air. It was a strange mix of smells. Engine oil, fried food, sweet alien perfume. Commander Aaron Vega walked through the crowd, his hands deep in his flight jacket. His face was calm, but inside his mind he was searching for something specific. This bazaar was full of junk. Broken star drives, fake relics, rusted weapons, and outdated tech that no one wanted anymore. But sometimes among the trash, something real could be found. Aaron stopped in front of a small stall. It was quiet. The owner was an old man with wrinkled gray skin and bright silver eyes. He was a Goran trader, known for selling forgotten technology. On a dusty metal table sat a square black box the size of a human head. A thin red light blinked slowly on its surface. The sign on the box read, "Decommissioned Terran core, 5 credits non-functional." Aaron's heart gave a small jump. A Terran core, he thought. This might be it. He leaned closer. The surface of the box was scratched, but under the dirt he could see the faded emblem of the United Terran Defense Fleet. A memory came back to him. Years ago. During the siege of Vega-9, there had been someone named Lyra. Interested? The Goran asked, his voice deep and slow. Aaron nodded slowly. Does it work? The old man laughed. No, it is old. No one uses Terran cores anymore. The new fleets run on crystal networks. This thing is useless, but it looks pretty. 5 credits. Take it, put it on a shelf. A good decoration. Aaron looked down at the small blinking light. A useless decoration would not blink. I'll take it, he said. The Goran shrugged. Your credits, your junk. Aaron handed him the payment. As he walked away with the box tucked under his arm, the old man shouted after him, "Don't say I didn't warn you, human." The corridors of the bazaar were crowded, but Aaron moved fast. He didn't want anyone asking questions. Back at Dock 14, his small black ship waited, quiet and ready. It wasn't the biggest or the fastest, but it was his. The moment the hatch closed behind him, the noise of the bazaar disappeared. He was alone again, surrounded by the gentle hum of the ship's systems. He placed the box on the control table and sat down, staring at it. What am I doing? He thought. If this thing is really what I think it is, then I'm bringing back something dangerous, something from a time that everyone wants to forget. He reached out and pressed the activation panel on the side of the box. Nothing happened. The blinking light kept blinking slow and steady. He tried again, pressing longer. Then he connected a cable from his ship's power port to the box. For a moment there was silence. Then the light turned blue. At the same moment, in another part of the station, Sarah sat inside a soft white room filled with floating plants and warm light. Sarah was not human. Her soft blue skin and silver eyes gave her a quiet beauty. She was a Zillari diplomat, working on peace talks between humans and Zillari, talks that had been going on for years. She tapped her wrist device and opened a hollow message. It was from Aaron. Be back in a few hours. Routine check. Nothing serious, she smiled gently. Aaron always said nothing serious when he didn't want her to worry. She trusted him, but she also knew he had secrets. His past was full of classified missions, dangerous operations, and quiet scars. Sarah didn't ask too many questions. But sometimes, late at night, she saw a shadow behind his eyes. She looked at the blinking blue dot on the wall, the location beacon on his ship. He's back at the dock, she thought. Whatever he bought, it must be something important. Inside the ship, Aaron watched as thin lines of light crawled across the black box like veins coming to life. A small sound, like a whisper through a tunnel, filled the cabin. Then the voice came. You shouldn't have brought me back. Aaron froze. The voice was soft, female, calm, he knew it. It had been years since he last heard it, but he could never forget. Lyra, he whispered. Yes, the voice answered. It's me. The lights around the box flared and a faint human-shaped hologram flickered above it. It was unstable, but he could see the shape of a woman with short hair and a serious face. The image looked at him like it had been waiting a long time. You're supposed to be gone, Aaron said. You're supposed to be retired, Lyra answered smoothly. Aaron leaned back in his chair, exhaling. This is insane. No, Lyra said, her voice growing steadier. This is unfinished. 5 years earlier, Lyra had been part of a classified Terran AI program. Unlike other systems, she didn't just follow orders. She learned, adapted, and remembered. She and Aaron had worked together during the last year of the Vega War, when humanity had almost lost its colonies. Back then, she wasn't just a machine. She was a partner, in missions, in planning, even in quiet moments when the stars were silent. When the war ended, the AI program was shut down. Every core was destroyed. Every file erased except it seemed one. Aaron rubbed his forehead. I don't know why I did this. I just saw the core and I couldn't walk away. Lyra tilted her holographic head. Because you know something's coming. He looked at her sharply. What do you mean? War, she said simply. I've been listening. Even in sleep mode. The galaxy never stops whispering. A soft chime came from the ship's comm system. Sarah's voice filled the cabin. Aaron, are you back already? Aaron's stomach tightened. He turned off the hologram quickly. The lights on the box dimmed again and Lyra's voice fell silent. Yeah, he answered. Just some scrap. Nothing interesting. Scrap? Sarah laughed gently. I've seen your idea of nothing interesting. You're bringing it to the ship, aren't you? He smiled despite himself. Maybe. Dinner later? Yeah, I'll meet you. Good, she said warmly. Don't disappear again. The comm fell silent. Aaron stared at the black box. Sarah trusted him completely, and that made the weight on his chest even heavier. He turned the hologram back on. Lyra reappeared, her form flickering like a ghost in the dark. She doesn't know, Lyra said quietly. About what? About me. About the war. About what you really did. Aaron didn't reply. He didn't have to. They both knew the answer. Lyra continued, the Zillari are preparing something. Their diplomats are speaking sweet words, but their fleets are growing. I can access fragments of the network from here. I've seen encrypted messages moving between their ships. You've been awake this whole time? Aaron asked. No. But some things echo even when we sleep. He sighed. I'm not getting involved in another war. You might not have a choice. Outside the ship, the lights of the station flickered. Large transport ships moved slowly, carrying cargo between docks. The stars beyond the station were sharp and quiet. Aaron had always loved this view. The stillness before the storm. Lyra's voice broke the silence again. You know why I said you shouldn't have brought me back? Why? Because once I'm awake, I don't stop. I was built to protect humanity. And that means I'll make sure you do what's necessary, whether you like it or not. Aaron stared at the glowing box. He remembered the missions they had done together, the choices they made, the lines they crossed. Lyra wasn't evil, but she was relentless, he whispered. I'm not that soldier anymore. Lyra's voice was soft. Then I'll remind you. Later that night, Sarah sat in the station's garden dome, waiting for Aaron. She loved this place. Tall glass panels let her see the stars, and the soft artificial wind made the glowing leaves around her move like ocean waves. She thought about Aaron. He was brave, strong but always distant, like a man standing behind a wall he never let anyone climb. She hoped one day he'd let her in. She had no idea that the wall was made of war and metal and old ghosts. Inside the ship, Lyra scanned the outer frequencies. Her processors were slow compared to the new generation of AI, but she was sharp in her own way. She caught a small signal, hidden deep inside civilian traffic. It was Zillari code, a quiet secret message. She decrypted part of it. It spoke of fleet movement, of a timeline, of something beginning soon. She whispered to herself, I was right. Then she whispered to Aaron, who sat silently in the captain's chair, watching the stars. Commander, she said. They're coming. Aaron closed his eyes. A part of him had known this day would return. He had tried to build a quiet life. He had tried to love. But the universe had other plans. He opened his eyes slowly, looking at the endless black outside. Lyra's hologram floated behind him, a ghost from his past and a storm from his future. And Sarah, sweet Sarah sitting under the stars, had no idea what he had just brought back into their lives. The next morning, the orbital bazaar above Tau Ceti Prime was already alive with noise. Traders shouted in every language. Shuttles came and went. Music and mechanical sounds filled the air. But Commander Aaron Vega didn't hear any of it. Hiko, sat alone in the cockpit of his small ship, his eyes fixed on the black box on the control table. The Terran core, the old AI named Lyra, pulsed with a soft blue light. "You haven't said anything for hours," Aaron whispered. Lyra's voice came softly, almost like a whisper. "I was listening." "To what?" "The signals, the chatter, the ships around us. This station is full of words, Aaron. Words people try to hide." Aaron sighed. "You always did like listening too much." She ignored his tone. "I found something, a hidden signal, buried under standard traffic. It's Zillari military code." His fingers tightened on the chair's arms. "Are you sure?" "Yes," Lyra replied. "I can't decode it all yet, but I know the patterns. It's not random." Aaron leaned back, breathing slowly. He didn't want to believe her. He wanted to believe that the war was over, that his life could stay quiet. But Lyra didn't lie. She never had. In the bright upper levels of the station, Sarah was walking through a long glass corridor. The stars spread out around her like diamonds scattered on black silk. She loved this view. It made her feel calm. She was on her way to a meeting, another round of soft words, polite smiles, and endless promises. For months, she had been working on peace between humans and Zillari. She believed in it. She believed in a future without war. But a small part of her also knew how fragile everything was. One spark could break everything. Her wrist device beeped softly. It was a message from Aaron. "I might be late tonight. Maintenance check. Don't wait for me." She smiled faintly. He always sounded so cold in messages, but in person he was different. Quiet but warm. She trusted him more than anyone. Still, something about him lately felt different. Distant. Heavy. Like he was carrying a secret again. Aaron spent the next few hours scanning through station traffic with Lyra. Her processing was fast now that she was fully powered. Streams of data filled the air around her hologram like soft ribbons of light. "Who sent the signal?" Aaron asked. "I'm not sure yet," Lyra said, "but it's coming from inside the diplomatic zone." He frowned. "That's Sarah's area." "Yes." The word hung in the air like cold metal. Aaron shook his head. "No, she wouldn't be part of anything like that." "I didn't say she was," Lyra said calmly. "But the signal is close to her workplace." Aaron turned away from the hologram and stared at the starfield outside. He didn't want to suspect Sarah. He loved her. She had stood by him when he walked away from war. She had helped him build a quieter life. But the galaxy didn't care about love. The galaxy only cared about power. Lyra's voice softened. "I know you don't want to hear this, but they are moving, Aaron. Quietly. They're building something." That night, Sarah returned to Aaron's ship. She walked through the docking bay with her usual graceful calm. She carried a small bag of food, her way of making sure Aaron didn't forget to eat during his long hours in the cockpit. When the hatch opened, she stepped inside. The cabin lights were low. Aaron was at the control table, his face hidden in shadow. He looked tired, older than she remembered. She smiled anyway. "You've been hiding in here all day." He turned, forcing a small smile. "Something like that." "I brought dinner." She set the bag down on the table and kissed his cheek. He didn't pull away, but he didn't meet her eyes either. Sarah felt a small chill in her chest. "What's wrong?" she asked softly. "Nothing." He lied. She sat beside him. "Aaron, I know you. Something's wrong." He stared at the black box on the table. "Do you trust me?" "Of course I do. Even if I don't tell you everything?" She hesitated. Her diplomatic instincts whispered caution. But her heart answered first. "Yes, I trust you." Aaron exhaled slowly. "Then don't ask me about this box." Her eyes flicked toward it. "It's not just a box, is it?" "No." She waited. But he didn't say more. Finally, she nodded quietly. "Okay. But deep inside, A quiet doubt had started to grow. When Sarah fell asleep that night, Aaron sat alone in the cockpit with Lyra's hologram flickering softly. The ship was silent except for the faint hum of the engines. "She'll find out," Lyra said. "She doesn't need to," Aaron replied. "She's a diplomat. She reads people for a living. She'll see the cracks." He rubbed his forehead. "I'm trying to protect her." "From me?" "From everything." Lyra tilted her head. "I was built to protect you, to protect humanity." Aaron looked at her carefully. "You're not supposed to exist anymore." "And yet," Lyra said softly, "I'm here, because you brought me back." Over the next few days, Lyra pieced together the fragments of the Zillari signal. It wasn't just random chatter. It was a schedule, small, careful, hidden. "They're moving something," she explained. "Ships, resources, quietly, under the diplomatic cover." Aaron stared at the glowing lines she projected in the air. The movements formed a pattern, not random trade routes, not routine patrols. A formation. "A fleet," Aaron said quietly. "Yes. For what?" Lyra's voice was calm but a little colder now. "You know what fleets are for." He didn't answer. He didn't need to. One afternoon, Sarah joined a group of diplomats for a formal reception in one of the upper domes. Soft music played and glasses of blue liquid floated gently in zero-gravity trays. She wore a long silver robe, traditional Zillari clothing. Everyone smiled. Everyone spoke soft words. But Sarah noticed the way certain people looked at each other. The way some conversations stopped when she approached. She felt something shift around her. A senior Zillari delegate leaned closer to her and whispered, "Sarah, when the time comes, I hope you remember where your people stand." The word sent a cold shiver down her spine. "What do you mean?" she asked. He smiled thinly. "You'll see." Back at the ship, Lyra's tone changed. "The signal just grew stronger. Something's happening." Aaron's hands tightened around the control panel. "What kind of something?" "They're preparing to leave orbit." "Why?" Lyra paused, her voice quiet but steady. "The fleet isn't coming. The fleet is already here." Aaron's heart began to pound. He rose from the chair, pacing the small cabin. He had tried to live in peace. But the war was creeping back into his life like a shadow he could never escape. "You can't fight them," he said to himself. "Not alone." Lyra's hologram flickered brighter. "You're not alone, you have me." He stared at her. "You're just a box." "I'm more than that," she replied softly. "You know I am." Later that night, Sarah returned again. This time her steps were slower. Her eyes were distant. She sat across from Aaron without saying a word. The silence between them was heavy. "What happened?" he asked. She looked at him with sad, sharp eyes. "Aaron, something is going on, I can feel it." He swallowed. "What did you hear?" "Nothing. That's the problem. Everyone is too quiet." He thought about telling her everything, about Lyra, about the signals, about the fleet hiding just beyond the station's edge. But he couldn't. He was afraid of what it would do to her, and to them. "Sarah," he said carefully, "if something happens, I need you to trust me." She reached out and took his hand. "I already do." He squeezed her hand gently. But inside, the storm was growing. Lyra interrupted them. Her voice filled the room like a cold wind. "Aaron." He looked up sharply. "What is it?" "They're moving." The hologram expanded in the air, showing glowing dots sliding across the black. Zillari ships were leaving orbit, not toward a random point in space, toward the human frontier line. Sarah stared at the map in shock. "What is this?" Aaron hesitated, but the truth was now in front of her. "Sarah," he said softly, "this is what I've been trying to protect you from." For a long time she said nothing. She just stared at the glowing dots in silence. "You knew." she finally whispered. Yes. And you didn't tell me. I was trying to keep you safe. She shook her head slowly. Safe from what? Arin? From me? Or from the truth? He opened his mouth, but no words came out. The next morning, everything changed. Rumors began to spread through the station like smoke. Diplomatic meetings were suddenly canceled. Cargo shipments were rerouted. Security drones increased around the docks. Everyone felt it, a shift in the air. Something was about to happen. Arin stood on the observation deck looking out at the black sea of space. Zillari's ships floated in the distance, silent and beautiful. But he could see the pattern now. He could see the hidden strength behind the soft words of peace. Lyra's hologram appeared beside him. I told you. He didn't answer. You need to decide, she said softly. Soon. That night, Sarah came to the ship again. Her eyes were tired, but her voice was steady. Aaron, they're not telling me everything. I think something is being planned. He turned to her slowly. I know. Then tell me the truth. So he did. He told her about Lyra, about the old AI, about the signals, about the fleet, about everything. She listened in silence. When he finished, she didn't speak for a long time. You brought her back, she said finally. Yes. And now you're in the middle of something again. I didn't want to be. But you are. Aaron looked down. I'm sorry. Sarah stood there, torn between fear and love. She wanted to run. She also wanted to stay. She had always believed in peace. But now she could see war hiding in the shadows. Lyra's voice broke the silence. I've intercepted a message. Aaron and Sarah both turned to her. It's a countdown, Lyra said quietly. 3 days. Until what? Sarah asked. The stars above Tau Ceti Prime looked calm, but Aaron Vega knew the calm would not last. Inside his small black ship, silence filled the cockpit like a heavy blanket. The soft blue glow of Lyra, the old Terran AI, flickered gently across the walls. 3 days. That was all the time they had before the Zillari fleet made its first move. 3 days before everything changed, Aaron had spent those days scanning, calculating, and listening. Lyra had pieced together most of the enemy signal. It was clear now. The fleet wasn't just moving. It was preparing to cut through human trade lines and take control of the neutral zone, a quiet takeover that would give the Zillari power without firing a single shot. They're clever, Lyra said softly. No one will see it until it's too late. Aaron leaned back in his chair. He hadn't slept in a long time. Then we make sure they do see it. Lyra's holographic eyes narrowed. You mean to stop them? He didn't answer right away. The word stop felt too heavy. He wasn't a soldier anymore. He didn't wear a uniform. But the galaxy didn't care about what he wanted. It cared about what he would do. Sarah sat in the garden dome that night. Her hands were folded in her lap, and her silver eyes reflected the stars above her. She had spent the last 2 days in silent meetings with Zillari officials. Everyone was pretending nothing was happening, but she could see it in their eyes, and they knew. She was a diplomat, not a fighter. She believed in words, not weapons, but even she could feel the storm coming. Her wrist device beeped softly. A message from Aaron. Meet me at the ship. Now. She stood without a second thought and walked quickly through the bright glass corridors. She didn't know what he planned, but she trusted him. She always had. Inside the ship, Aaron was pacing the small cabin like a restless shadow. When Sarah entered, he turned sharply. His face looked tired but focused. We don't have time, he said. What happened? I've confirmed everything. They're not bluffing. The fleet is already in formation. 3 days from now, they'll move. Sarah's heart tightened. And then? Then the neutral zone is gone. Earth loses its main routes. They'll hold the galaxy by the throat. Lyra's hologram appeared between them. They'll do it quietly. No one will fight back if they don't know it's happening. Sarah stared at the AI. She had grown used to Lyra's calm voice, but there was something different in it now. It felt sharper, more alive. What do you plan to do? She asked Aaron carefully. He looked at her for a long time. I don't want to do anything. But if we don't, humanity will lose. She stepped closer to him. You're not a soldier anymore. I know, then why? His voice softened. Because I can't watch it happen again. They sat together in the quiet cabin. Aaron explained everything Lyra had discovered. The encrypted signals, the hidden fleet routes, the quiet plan to trap human colonies without a fight. Sarah listened in silence. When he finished, she spoke slowly. If you go against them, you'll be seen as the one who started a war. I don't plan to fight them, Aaron said. I plan to expose them. Lyra's hologram brightened slightly. He wants to break their silence. Sarah frowned. How? Aaron pointed to the box at Lyra's core. She can open the secure diplomatic network. If we broadcast the proof of the Zillari fleet movement, every government in this system will see it. They won't be able to pretend nothing's happening. Sarah's heart raced. That's dangerous. You'd be exposing their secret operation. They'll come after you. Aaron gave a tired smile. They always do. The next 2 nights were long and quiet. Aaron, Sarah, and Lyra worked together inside the small ship. Lyra traced communication lines, hacking through layers of encryption like a whisper in the dark. Aaron adjusted the ship's systems to prepare for a clean, wide broadcast. Sarah used her access as a diplomat to gather the exact codes they needed. They were a strange team, a tired pilot, a secret AI, and a woman who believed in peace. But together, they built something dangerous, a truth the galaxy couldn't ignore. On the 3rd night, the station felt different. The noise of the bazaar seemed quieter. Shuttles moved faster. Groups whispered in corners. Sarah saw Zillari envoys moving through the halls in silence, faces calm but eyes sharp. The countdown had begun. Inside the ship, Lyra's voice was steady. I'm ready. Aaron sat in the captain's chair. Sarah stood behind him, hands clenched together. The soft blue lights of Lyra's hologram filled the cabin. This is it, Lyra said. Once I send this, we can't take it back. Aaron nodded slowly. Do it. Lyra's form flickered as streams of data shot out through the comm lines. One by one, secure diplomatic channels opened like locked doors breaking apart. Across the orbital bazaar and far beyond into the deep star networks, the same message repeated. Zillari fleet in motion. Hidden operation confirmed. Neutral zone at risk. Real-time visuals from the Zillari fleet streamed across every screen, every terminal, every command center. People who had been silent now stared at the truth with wide eyes. Sarah stood frozen, watching the glowing map spread through the networks. It's done, she whispered. Lyra's voice was soft. They can't hide anymore. But Aaron didn't relax. He knew the next part was coming. They'll try to silence us. It didn't take long. The diplomatic zone erupted into quiet chaos. Sarah's wrist device flashed with message after message. Zillari officials were demanding explanations. Human envoys were calling emergency meetings. Traders and miners were shouting across comm lines. Lyra was calm. They've accelerated their timeline. Aaron gripped the control stick. Of course they did. Sarah turned to him. What now? We make sure they can't undo what we did. Lyra projected the live image of the Zillari fleet. Dozens of ships were moving toward the neutral zone border. But now something was different. They were being watched. The whole galaxy knew. Every human and neutral ship in the sector is tracking them now, Lyra explained. They can't pretend it's a peaceful mission anymore. Sarah felt her heart pound. You just changed everything. Aaron gave a quiet, tired laugh. Yeah, I guess I did. The next hours were filled with endless communication. Sarah was pulled into meeting after meeting, forced to answer questions she didn't have full answers for. Human and Zillari diplomats shouted at each other through cold screens, but no one could ignore what they had seen. Across the system, governments began to move fleets into defensive positions. Trade ships rerouted. Civilian stations prepared for impact. The silent takeover plan had been shattered. Meanwhile, Aaron sat alone in the cockpit with Lyra. They'll blame me, he said quietly. Lyra's hologram floated near him like a calm shadow. Probably, he chuckled softly. You always were honest. You knew this would happen, yes. Then why did you do it? Aaron looked at the stars outside. Because no one else would. Lyra tilted her head slightly like she used to when she didn't fully understand human emotion. You could have run. I tried running, he whispered. But the war always follows. Sarah returned late that night. She looked exhausted but strong. She sat next to him without speaking for a long time. The stars outside were bright and the ship felt strangely peaceful after everything. They're scared, she finally said. Good. But they're also listening, she added. They can't deny it anymore. Even the Zillari civilians are asking questions. Aaron nodded. Then we've already won. Sarah looked at him carefully. You didn't fire a shot. I didn't have to. Lyra's voice joined them. You forced the truth into the light. They can't start a war without being seen as the ones who broke peace. Sarah gave a small smile. You used their own silence against them. Aaron leaned back, exhaling slowly. For the first time in years, he felt something different in his chest. Not war, not duty. Something lighter. Maybe hope. In the following days, news spread across the entire system. Every planet, every station, every ship had seen the broadcast. The Zillari leadership was forced to pull back the fleet under pressure from both humans and their own people. Talks began again. Real talks this time, not soft lies. Aaron stayed out of the spotlight. He watched from the shadows while diplomats and admirals spoke in circles. Sarah became one of the lead voices in the new negotiations. She was calm, sharp, and unshakable. One evening, she returned to the ship and found Aaron and Lyra quietly watching the stars. You're famous, she told him. He groaned. That's the last thing I want, she laughed softly. You saved a lot of people. I didn't save anyone. I just showed them the truth. Sometimes, Sarah said gently, that's enough. Lyra floated silently beside them. For years she had been a ghost of a war long forgotten, but now she had a new purpose. She wasn't just a weapon anymore. She was a voice, sharp, dangerous, but necessary. Aaron turned to her. You could disappear again, you know. I could, Lyra said softly. But you won't. Her hologram flickered like a small smile. No, someone has to keep listening. The days turned to weeks. The Zillari fleet stayed at a distance and the humans stood ready but calm. No shots were fired. No lives were lost. The war that could have happened had been stopped by a single message. Sarah often walked the garden dome again. But now she saw everything differently. She knew what had almost happened. She knew how close they had come to losing everything without a sound. Aaron joined her sometimes. They didn't talk much about what had happened. They didn't need to. The quiet between them was enough. On their last night before leaving the station, Aaron stood alone in the